All right, we're on. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right, so this is Lindsay, and we just wanted to talk to Lindsay a little bit. She's probably, I've called you Mama Tiger forever.
I think you call me that more than my actual name.
I probably do. But you know, I was thinking back, I'm trying to remember when we first met, and I could not remember. I feel like I've known you so long, I could not remember when we first met.
We first met in the office, actually.
That's what it was.
It was after
Maddie.
I had Madeline.
Right.
Yeah, and I had an encounter with a not so nice pediatrician, and I won't say who or where, but I was like, as a first-time mom, it was really, I don't know, I just thought, this isn't right, and so and I don't remember if someone recommended you or if I just got in with you. Fortunate enough to get in with you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, because I couldn't remember like how we first met, but I remember the first time I met you, I was a little taken aback because you like are so strong. You're like this.
Yeah. Stubborn too.
Yeah, just I wasn't going to use other words, but it got to a point where I think I learned to appreciate your strength, because I think for a lot of people when they first meet you, they're probably like a little bit like, whoa. So then
that's usually everyone's first impression.
I would think so, but then I got to see you as a mom, so I think that was a very different side that I got to see maybe than others. But I was trying to think to myself, when you were young, like when you were like 3 or 4, I mean, did you think you were going to have like 6 kids?
Oh, no. And even my mom to this day, it was so funny. She says this to me all the time.
Yeah.
She goes, when you were in high school, I caused a little bit of a stir, some trouble. It just wasn't, what I think my parents expected,
Right.
But you go through that phase, you don't remain in it.
Right.
But my mom still says to this day, she goes, did you ever think? I mean, she said that after my 3rd, and then I had my 4th and 5th, and now I'm like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, no, I mean, I didn't. But I guess, then I didn't even really think about what I wanted, and things just work. I mean, they just, things happen, and what are you going to do? You know what I mean?
And I like how you're such a different mom to each of your kids. You know what I mean? Because every child has different needs.
Yes.
But I really love how differently you are with like Maddie versus Flash versus the twins.
And I think a part of that is too, I know what their strengths are, and I know not necessarily what their weaknesses are, but like what they battle with, and when you give them praise on what they're good at, it just builds them up that much more. And then when you can encourage what their weaknesses are, you can watch them just evolve into someone that you knew that they could be, you know what I mean? And so that's, and I mean, it's not like I learned all of this overnight.
I was about to say,
I've had some experience, but having Furio taught me to be, you have to advocate for all of your kids, no matter what.
Well, and that's one thing I think everybody appreciated about you. I know as like Furio's doctor is like, you know him better than I do.
Yeah.
So how can I sit there and say, no, this isn't what's happening, when you're like with him 24 hours a day, and you knew him better than anyone.
By the time I come in to see the doctors, I already have that shit figured.
Right, I know. Believe me, we knew, like, and she told us.
And this and this.
But that's very hard, because some people take that as you being too bossy or too bitchy. And I'm sure there was times you rubbed maybe people the wrong way.
There were, but, I was also fortunate to have doctors like you taking care of him. And then shout out to his pulmonologist in St. Louis.
Well, they did all the work. I just did kind of clean
Dr.
up
Horani and the lung transplant team. We had another unpleasant encounter in the NICU with pretty much the only available pulmonologist, not necessarily a pediatric pulmonologist either. So I'm a strong believer that if your child is struggling in any way, that you find the right doctor for them. Do not settle. Do not settle for doctors in Springfield because they're convenient. Don't, you know, if you
have that gut instinct. That's something.
Yeah. And we had been through so much with Furio when he was born, and watching, I mean, I don't really know if people realized what the struggle that was. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to take this day by day. It was a minute by minute, second by second, watching that, you know, watching them bag him, revive him on, you know, on all forms of life support, not just conventional vent, the oscillator, I mean, you learn so much, and it's like this crash course into helping your child survive. And I was not going to take no for an answer. We were leaving that hospital. And when he finally improved enough to be moved out of isolation, and he wasn't in isolation because he was contagious in any way, he was in isolation because he was so
vulnerable,
sensitive to light, sound. The nurse would move in her chair, and I mean, just the sound of that squeak would make him just completely crash. All of his saturations would go down to basically 0.
Wow.
And then it would take an hour for us to build that back up. But once we graduated into a pod, which I was like, I do not want that at all, but we did it anyway. I could hear the pulmonologist that was making his rounds then, who didn't have the greatest bedside manner. Everyone knew it. Didn't mean he was a bad doctor, but he had his little crew following him around, and they were going patient by patient, reading the charts, doing the rounds that morning, and I heard him say, this one has a surfactant deficiency, which we knew, but at that point we didn't get any results back, and he was maybe 3 months old at that point. He's not going to make it. He's not going to leave here. And the nurses in the pod heard that. I heard that, and I was like, that's not what, if I will not trust the opinion of a doctor who really doesn't understand or know his diagnosis in full, and especially one that isn't going to help him survive. So,
well, even the power of your love and strength as a mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To this will be.
Yes.
I mean, because he lived how many years after that?
He was 7. I mean, he was almost 8.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I mean, that was even, I had a gut feeling something was wrong, something that I hadn't experienced with him.
You mean during the pregnancy?
No, well, that too, yes. And
because did that pregnancy feel different
from
the
did.
other kids?
You know, that was the same year as the huge H1N1 scare. And I struggled between getting vaccinated when I was pregnant, and I did, and it just seemed like something was off after that. I was going in, having his heart rate monitored. He wasn't moving as much. And they don't, I mean, surfactant deficiencies are so rare, they don't really know what the cause is. Okay.
January needs some attention.
We need some loving over here.
Hold on a second.
January. You know, I can't say with full certainty that that's what caused that, but you know,
but it just felt
as far
different.
as I knew, and still know, Furio, and we didn't even get his full diagnosis because he had a complete deletion of that gene. It wasn't a mutation. It wasn't something they could find. We had to send it off to John Hopkins, and pretty much the only person in the world that could have diagnosed him did, but we had to wait 2 years for that.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was the thyroid transcription factor 1, the TTF1, is one of the rarer ones, but it's also one of the more unpredictable ones. People could live a normal life, or
or they could.
But I think the struggle that he had in the NICU with the loss of oxygen, as often as he did, he pulled his vent came out one night, and I think it took them 7 minutes to resuscitate him. I think that played a huge role in the just his different struggles with his abilities, developmental, physical. But you know, one thing I can say that I don't think people really realize when they met him was how brilliant he actually was.
Right.
He understood everything that you would say and talk to, and he would catch on to things that were said, you know, between two people that you never really realized. He was even paying attention, you know. I'd come home from a hard day at work, and he's the first one that would give me a hug. I mean, he just had that intuition, which I think a lot of times that's something that we shared, you know, that I feel like I have that too. Sometimes I can just know when something's not right or someone's, but he was better at it.
Yeah.
So.
And then how did he change you as a mom? Because you had more kids, obviously.
Yes.
After Furio, I mean, how did that, being his mom, change you?
He changed me in ways that I probably couldn't even begin to, I guess that changed my entire perspective on what is truly important in life. You know, not everyone around me who loved him, but not everyone really got that, I don't think, you know. And so I learned to appreciate not just small things. I know that sounds cliche. It's not really. But what's really important, and the small things, these things that upset you on a daily basis, that you get stressed about, that really are out of your control, don't effing matter.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, and you think about it. Think about things that have happened to you in your life, and then you're like, you know, what actually hasn't worked out? I'm still here, right? I'm still living. I still have my family, and I still have people that love me, and I love my kids, and you know, so nothing can happen to you that's so horrible that, you know, I mean, even losing a child.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you've been through, wow.
I mean, I always knew it was going to happen
one day.
I mean, I just knew that. I mean, and even, I mean, my prayers came true that we were able to leave the hospital. And I know even leaving the hospital did not mean that fight was over, you know, but I had so many wonderful years with him, and I am so grateful for that. You know, I could have left without my child. I could have, you know, but I mean, I honestly feel honored to have been there and been his mom to fight for him. I mean,
well, I feel like he chose you.
We had a very,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had our bond was very special. I mean, and I love all of my children. I do. I mean, Maddie, Flash, the twins, they drive me crazy, but I love them to pieces.
And that's called karma. We've already fixed that. We've already figured that out.
That's my redhead. But we had a bond that was very special, and it just, he was always a blessing to me. Even now, he was a blessing to me. He changed my life in so many ways. So, you know, he made me love being a mom even more. I know. Okay, we're going to try not to.
I tell you what, if you can make Lindsay Faulkner cry, I'm like. Because I know that's one thing that, as your friend, I think, well, and a lot of us, we struggle, is we don't like to see you struggle.
Yeah. I don't like others to see me struggle too.
Right. And so I know when you were going through that, and even as you take care of the kids, it was always very hard. Be like, let us help you, Lindsay. Let us help you. But it's really hard for you.
It is, because
to have people help you.
I don't have control
Right.
then. You know, even my mom, who knew him backwards and forwards as much as I did, you know, or I would try to teach her new things. God bless. My mother's a saint. She truly is. You know, for me, it takes longer to teach than it is just to do.
True.
And that is, it's probably one of my greater weaknesses, because people do really truly want to help. And I guess my thinking is, why let them help if I can just do it myself? And so I literally truly am like a do-it-yourselfer on everything.
I know, which I get, but I think the hard part is that is your strength, but we also, you have people here that want to support you because we don't want to see you like get burned out and have difficulties. But I have learned as your friend, and you know, we have a couple other friends who are like, have you talked to Lindsay? Have you talked to Lindsay? I'm like, no. And they're like, is she okay? I'm like, well, if she's not, she'll call me.
Yeah.
You know, I do know that you have that point of,
I do.
Okay, I do need you and I need you now.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I won't lie. At times, it all becomes too much, you know? And, you know, it's just me. Before I really have to talk, I mean, I would never be able to sit down with you and do this and without being able to talk about it and actually having gone through the process of processing it and knowing what it means to me. I have to do that first. And as you know, I try to do, you know, counseling after Fiorio passed. And I mean, I'm not going to say that it's pointless for anyone that needs to talk to
Just
someone.
wasn't your thing.
It's not my thing. No, because I feel like talking about it constantly, talking about things that I already know, it just drudges it up. I mean, it doesn't make it easier to move forward for me.
So what helped you move forward?
I spend a lot of time by myself. You know, and I know myself and I know what I want, I know what I don't want, and so I think it's just, you know, and you have to have that time to heal. Sometimes you can't heal with a bunch of people around you. Sometimes that's not who you are. So, for me, I feel like I heal myself. You know, I know what's good for me, I know what's bad for me, I know what I shouldn't do. Doesn't mean it's what I always do, but that's what I need. That's what I need to be able to talk about and be okay. So
yeah, because I never thought we'd be sitting here talking like
I know.
this.
Yeah.
It's taken us a while.
Yeah.
And all I know is you're going to be the coolest freaking grandma.
Right.
Can you imagine you with her? I mean, not that I'm saying that she's about to be a grandma.
No.
Maddie's probably like, don't say that.
No, matter of fact, poor Madeline. She came up to me because she'll put pictures of. I'm not like as much into social media as everyone else.
Right.
Lately, I have been like kind of getting out there a little bit more.
Of you.
I know.
So cute.
She's like truly my little blessing. I think Furio knew we needed her because she has just helped us heal in so many ways. But yeah, poor Madeline got stopped the other day and said, this girl said, I don't mean to like be rude or offend you, but do you have a baby? She's like, oh my God, no, it's just my old ass mom.
That would be my little sister. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. It's quite a spread.
Yeah, you are. You're a badass. I mean, and I remember, you know, I always try to think of like the people in my life. I figure like we've lived some other life before.
Absolutely.
So I always pictured you as like this Egyptian queen, like this badass queen who like didn't have a king and like had everything going on.
Yeah.
And I was just like lucky to be like your first like lady or whatever and waiting to kind of like help you out. That's what I figured our previous life was.
You know what though? And the thing of it is like that is such a struggle in relationships is to be that queen and not need anyone for anything.
Right.
And you know, I kind of entered the dating game after Jake and I, you know, split, and that's the thing. Oh, I love independent women. And then the second you show your independence, they don't. Yeah,
because they need to be needed.
They do. They need to be needed. And, you know, not to say that's a bad thing.
Right.
It's just, it's not me.
Right.
But it causes problems, even in existing relationships. That, you know, I mean, that will never be me.
No.
And
you have to do you. And you
I
have to
try
stay
to
true.
raise my kids like that too, because I feel like, especially with Madeline's generation, it's so difficult because they're so dependent on social media, and then they have some sort of
to validate themselves.
Yes, and
no,
then some preconceived thing that they have to have a man, and you know, and finally, I mean, one day, I told her, I go, look, you cannot depend on anyone but yourself, and that's that's why you live your life that way. You plan your life that way because anything can happen. And she has, I have to say, she has impressed me greatly.
Right.
She has come full strides on that, and she has, yeah. I'm
Well, it's got to
really
be
proud
hard to
of
have.
her.
I mean, because you as a mom, you're such a strong
Yeah.
force and strong mom. That's kind of hard, too. I'll let you know if you're nipping.
Well, you know, you would think that because I am that way, that your children will all follow suit and be that
Not
way.
necessarily.
But that's not
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah.
So, you know, steering them is, I mean, that's, I know all of my children will find their own path. They'll all be their own, they'll have their own success in some way. I might, it will be completely different. It will be all over the charts. But I just, that's my only goal, is to have a independent child who is sure of themselves, you know, because if you don't believe in yourself, and I tell Madeline all the time, if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to succeed.
Right, and no one else will believe in you.
No,
either.
exactly. If anyone out there even, I mean, and this is all things in life, if people out there even get a whiff of insecurity, they have found your weakness, and it's like the vulture's descent. So, you know, even if you're not strong, fake it. Whatever you got to do. You know,
I love it. Mom advice from Lindsay.
fake it. Fake all of it. It's all a lie, you know.
I love it. I
So-
love it. All right, so 10 years from now, where's Lindsay going to be?
On probably a sandy beach somewhere. I think to myself every day, I don't love Springfield in of itself, but I love the people that I love in Springfield. But I wake up almost on a daily basis, and I'm like, why
am I here?
Why am I here?
Yeah.
I want to find something that I love, and I'm determined to do that. But I just don't know what it is. I mean, you get to be a certain age, and you feel like it's too late to do this. It's too late to do this.
It's never
But
too
I don't.
late.
I'm not a believer in that. I
Yeah,
believe it's
yeah.
about finding the right time.
Yeah. So what would you do? What's your passion?
I don't know. I really still don't.
You're a pretty good mom.
I'm a good mom, but that doesn't pay the bills either. So deducts from them
Right.
greatly, tremendously, in big ways.
Yeah, I don't know. You give some pretty good advice, so kudos to
But
you.
I don't know. I'm still, and it's so funny that you say that, because I was laying in bed last night thinking, this can't be all. Like, this can't be it. What do I want? What would, and I just have this, I have this drive to be successful, and, but I just don't know what it is yet, and I'm trying to figure it out, so.
I think you're pretty badass, and I think you should write a book called Badass Mom.
Well, I've thought of that.
Seriously.
I've thought of that. And that as...
Because we've all learned a lot from you, just watching you, with your kids and with, the struggles and how you just navigate through. You just...
It's funny because my dad's an engineer.
Right.
So I feel like I get a lot of that skill from him. I'm more... it's almost like when a problem arises, it's like I can almost see a path to where it needs to be. I know that sounds crazy, but I do. And I don't think of 80 different ways to solve it. It's like I find the one most logical, and that's the route I take. Not that it always works, but, I don't know. I feel like I have that engineer type of mind, both introvert and extrovert. I think I'm a little bit of both.
I don't know if there's anything introvert about you.
But there is, and when I love to be at home, and I'm not a person that likes big crowds, and I don't like to go out. I find my little circle of trust.
Well, and
meet the Fockers. I find,
but I think you keep it real, and I think that's the thing that we all appreciate you. You're
the
not
people that like me appreciate it.
Yeah.
The people that don't.
Well, but we know that you're being honest and you're being real, and
Yeah.
that's hard to find, like you said, with social media. And everybody's blowing smoke up your ass sometimes.
That's what I kind of left Facebook a long
Yeah,
time ago
yeah,
because it's like kind of the big show for some people, you know. And
highlight
then
reels. It's
highlight reels of my life,
Yeah.
the greatest parts of my life,
right.
and either that or it's the saddest parts of your life, you know. Then when you're in between, you're looking for either or, you know, and sometimes there's not. So, yeah, I'm not a big.
Yeah,
I don't know. It just becomes less important to
I get you.
show the world who you are, and not that it's a bad thing, and that you do. I mean, it just isn't really me.
Well, I'd love for you to do a blog or a book.
I know.
I'd read that shit every single
you?
day.
Think I could make my millions?
Well, let me tell you, I would read that up every single day.
I'll think about it if you give me a refill.
Okay, refills. All right. Thank you, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone.
January. All right, we're gonna refill.
Here's her.
Yeah.
Have we even been able to see her face down here?
All right, show January. Yay!
This is little Miss January River Jewel.
She's
Which-
so sweet, and she smells so good.
I know. She's not really that clean. I just slapped some baby magic on it today.
She's super sweet.
No. I am 100% certain that my little Rio sent
Yeah.
her down here for me.
Well, I've definitely seen you blossom
Yeah, it's
a little bit more.
I think it's helped my whole family heal. So,
Yeah. All right. Cheers.
cheers. Happy
Peace
Memorial
out.
Day, everybody. Be safe.
Yes. Be safe.